Welcome back to another episode of the Tacho Show. I am your host, Tacho, of course. And what we're going to be doing today is taking a look at some of my top choices for possible duo and harmonic heroes that we may get in the future. Now, of course, we just recently got this duo hero over here, the Ninja Chrom and Lucina combo. I think they're great. I think they're a really awesome choice for a duo hero, of course. Father and daughter, can't really go wrong there, and they were, of course, the primary protagonists in Fire Emblem Awakening. So, it goes without saying, they definitely make sense as a duo. Some of these, on the other hand, don't really so much. Like, for example, this one over here. Nefany and Sakura? Like, what in the world? What do they have in common? To my knowledge, they really are the most far-removed characters from each other. Either of them could have had definitely better partners to pair up with as opposed to each other. So, this one's kind of questionable. I wasn't really a big fan of this combo here. And then, of course, we have this one, Gold Mary and Bernadetta. Probably the two most far-removed characters in terms of personality that you could get. Now, I've heard some people say they're paired up together because Gold Mary has a low self-esteem. But I don't know how y'all were able to extrapolate that detail. To me, personally, I thought Gold Mary was a very confident gal. Especially when she nabs Etier's baked potato. That was peak comedy right there. So, I don't know. I don't like this pairing at all. So, it's one thing to criticize them for not having good pairings, but why don't we go ahead and take a look at some of my pairings and see if any of these make any more sense than what Insys has been cooking up. So, we're going to start with three honorable mentions, and our first one is probably the most obvious if you're a fan of me and you've been watching my videos. I've said this many times. This would be probably my top choice for a duo hero. Ike and Zelgius goes without saying. Both of them learned from Grail, so they're students of the same master. And of course, they're mortal enemies as well, if you guys know who Zelgius really is, which Faye kind of spoiled. But yeah, this one makes a lot of sense, and I don't see how this would not work. There's no way this wouldn't work. Two of the most popular characters in the series, for sure. Definitely would love to see them as a duo at some point. Alright, this one, again, more Ike standing. I am the Ike guy, I guess. But this time we've got Geralt and Grail. I think these two would make a very interesting duo. Of course, Geralt and Grail are both fathers of mercenaries. So, Byleth is a mercenary, and then Ike is also a mercenary. But they learned everything about the trade from their dads. And both of these are pretty badass characters in their own right. Like, Geralt is pretty famous in Fodlan for being the Blade Breaker. And then, of course, Grail used to be one of the 4 riders of Dain. He's probably the strongest Tellius character in terms of power scaling, if we're looking at only the Beork-type characters. So, Grail and Geralt together would be pretty fun. Definitely would make a nice duo. And the last honorable mention we have here, this one's a little bit more random, but Ferdinand and Larachel. Tell me this would not be hilarious. Like, this would be peak comedy right here. Imagine Ferdinand and Larachel, like the two funniest characters in the series, just paired up together. They would have some very fun conversations. I imagine Ferdinand being like Larachel's lackey, like a butler to her, serving her tea and like all the stuff we have going on here. And I wonder how long Ferdinand would even be able to last before he ends up like Renak or any of the other victims of Larachel before he turns tail and tries to run away. So yeah, this would be a fun one, but this is only an honorable mention. So now let's actually get to my top 10 picks for duo and harmonic possibilities. The first one, of course, this one really hits hard for me. Seliph and Sigurd combined. Fire Emblem 4 is probably my second favorite game, next to the Tellius games. So, seeing Seliph and Sigurd together, father and son, it's very boring, and it's very obvious of a choice, but I think it would work well. I would want Seliph to be the main, and Sigurd to be the backpack in this particular case, because we've got a lot of Sigurd alts, but not quite as many Seliph alts, so I think it would be pretty cool to have Seliph take the front lines while Sigurd is in the back, just giving him advice and telling him like what to do and all that. And of course, they never actually met, which is really sad. In FE4, if you guys know the story, Sigurd dies before Seliph is really able to grow up. He meets him as a baby, but he doesn't get to see his son prosper and grow, which really sucks. But We had that one brief moment in Fae in one of the earlier Tempest Trials. Remember back in the day when Masked Marth was like the leader of the Tempest Trials, and the whole story was that we're trying to help Masked Marth dispel the vortex or whatever nonsense they came up with for the early Tempest Trials stories. There was one where Seliph actually met Sigurd for a brief moment, and that hit home so hard for me. That's still probably my favorite Tempest Trial overall, just for that little interaction they had. And this is really what I signed up for when I started playing Fae back in 2017. Just seeing interactions between characters that are beloved from the Legacy series, like all the original games. Seeing them being able to actually interact with each other in a meaningful way, that's what I signed up for when I started playing Fae. I was expecting us to get a lot more of that, and we didn't really, which sucks. But I guess it is what it is. Okay, here is the next pick. This one's pretty funny. So we have Surtur and Fire Dragon. Now, first of all, Fire Dragon's not even in the game yet. But I think this would be really awesome. And of course, Sigurd or Surtur is the Flame Emperor or whatever his moniker is. So the idea here would be that Surtur is trying to start Ragnarok. He's trying to destroy all of the realms in Asker. So he opens up the portal, and out comes the Fire Dragon, and then Surtur, being Surtur, decides to just ride on the Fire Dragon's back and wreak havoc all over the world. So it would be a mounted Wyvern type of unit. Surtur would be the main character, of course. He'd be riding on Fire Dragon, like how Ashnard rid on the back of Rajayan in Path of Radiance. I think that would be pretty fire. No pun intended. So, yeah, this one is a more out there type of pick. But tell me you wouldn't go nuts if you saw this actually happen in Fae. If you saw this on a banner trailer, you would be like, damn, that's pretty dope. That's pretty cool. So I would like to see something like this. Just more wacky combos that would be fun. All right, here is the third pick over here. Now, not necessarily baby Mark, but I think like a version of Mark, probably adult Mark, paired up with Robin would be a really cool combo. If you remember back in Awakening, we had that one paralogue where we actually recruit Lynn, and then Lynn sees us, our tactician, who is Robin/Mark, and she actually mistakes them for being Mark from her realm. And they actually did something funny in the Japanese version of Awakening where I believe the Japanese name of Mark, or the Japanese name of Morgan in Awakening, is actually Mark. So it's kind of like a callback in a way, or is it a callback or is it actuality? Like, we don't really know the truth. Like, possibly on the way through the portal or whatever it was called, the thing that Hubba was guarding in Awakening, the portal that lets you go back and forth between time. Imagine if Morgan actually got lost on the way to come back in time to Awakening and ended up in Elibe somehow, and then lost their memory and was wounded up as a tactician for Lynn and all the other heroes of FE7. It's possible, right? And I think this would be an interesting way to not only do a callback to that, but maybe give some elaboration on that as to whether or not Mark actually is Morgan. And of course, who better to figure that out than Robin? And they're also both just tacticians in general, so there you go for that one. Okay, next up, this one's more of a fan servicey one for me. So, Marissa and Ira. Yeah, I feel like Marissa is really underappreciated in Fae, which doesn't make any sense at all to me. Marissa is one of my favorite characters from Fire Emblem 8, so seeing her paired up with Ira seems to make a lot of sense. They're both very antisocial. The difference, though, is that Marissa is, like, more so of, like, a train. She's not really, like, a fully fledged swordsman yet. She's pretty close, but she's still, like, learning how to be a better swordsman. And Ira, of course, with her holy blood, maybe could teach her a thing or two about being, like, a master swordsman. Teach her how to use Astra, maybe. I think that would be pretty fire. Like, having a duo with Marissa as the lead and Ira as the backpack, and then she could have a bunch of skills coming from Ira. Like, her special could be Astra, or, like, something like that. And, like, just teach Marissa more the way of the sword, I think would be pretty good. And of course, like I said, we need more Marissa love overall. Alright, next one over here. This one should be pretty obvious to a lot of people because both of these games are translated. So Alchrist and Innies. Of course, we know Alchrist is a very timid bowman. He's not really as outgoing as some of the other characters. Certainly not as much as Diamant, his big brother. So in order to teach him a little bit more confidence and how to be more regal, we have Innies, of course. So Innies would be the main, and then Alchrist would be behind as the backpack, just watching, taking notes and learning from Innies how to be a better lord, how to be a better bowman, and just how to be more confident about himself. So Innies, the most pompous, like haughty lord bowman I could think of. So I think this would be an interesting combo. All right, then of course this one. Like, when are these two actually going to become an item? So Alphonse and Kieran, we've seen this like 100 times already in Fae. They seem to have some kind of affinity towards each other. And of course, every time they drop one of those new forging bonds, or not forging bonds, what is it called again? That mode with the chibi sprites where you get the cutscenes, the adorable cutscenes. Hero's Journey, I think it's called, right? So every single time they drop a new one of those, it's always Alphonse and Kieran together as the default, exploring whatever shenanigans they're getting themselves into. So why not just make them a duo already and just like just cut all the bullcrap? Let's get these two together. I was really hopeful as well when Alphonse won CYL 8. I was really hoping they were going to give us our first Brave duo hero and have it be Alphonse and Kieran together. But unfortunately, they weren't thinking as much ahead as I was. So we just got Alphonse based on Gustav, which is fine, but I think this would have been way better if they had done this for Brave Alphonse. All right, next up, here's another funny one. So, as we all know, Oliver is a man of culture. He loves beautiful things, particularly racing and beast type of characters. So, what would happen if Oliver actually met with a really beautiful beast that's also a god? Like, what would happen then? Would he just be chasing Freya around all over, trying to, like, get her attention, or trying to add her to his collection, if you guys know the story with this guy? So I could imagine Freya just being like, dude, this guy will not leave me alone. Just running around all over the place trying to get away from him. And he's just chasing her all over Asker. So some hijinks would definitely ensue. This would be really funny. This would be really fan servicey as well. But would they actually go the mile and do it? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments section. Okay, here is another one. So this time we've got Lissa and Mercedes. Now, I think this would work for a lot of reasons. First of all, I think Lissa might remind Mercedes a little bit of Annette. Because you guys know how in Three Houses, Mercedes is kind of like the quote-unquote big sister of Annette. She's like trying to teach her and like just be a big sister to her, mentor her a little bit. And also just like keep an eye on her, make sure she's safe. So I think she might feel the same way about Lissa. Both of them are very holy women. So, like, Lissa is of the church. She's a cleric. She's a healer. And then Annette, of course, is of the church. She's literally from the church, Garrick Mach Monastery in Fodlan. So, yeah, I think that would work. And then also, Mercedes kind of has a prankster side to her. Like, remember when she was telling ghost stories and scaring everybody? I feel like Lissa would be, like, kind of into that. And then also, Lissa could teach Mercedes how to be a prankster. And, like, I could imagine these two going around causing a lot of hijinks and trouble. Just pranking people all over Asker. So, they could definitely learn a lot from each other and also get along pretty well, I think. So, this would be a fun combo. All right, now here's one. I don't even know why this hasn't happened yet. Like, can somebody tell me why we haven't gotten beast characters paired up from 2 separate games? Like, how interesting would that be to see Lagoo's characters paired up with, I don't know, some of the beasts from Fates or Awakening or whatever? I think this would be pretty cool. So what we have here is Lethe paired up with Valoria. Now, of course, I had to have Valoria in her transformed state. And I wonder what the reaction would be from Lethe or any of the Gallian beasts. Like, if they saw the wolf skin transformation. Because if you call back to Tellius and the Beast Tribe, all the characters from Gallia are just based on real, actual animals. Like cats and tigers and lions, and you have the wolf tribe as well. So, like, all of them are just used to seeing regular old animals. What would be their reaction to seeing a wolf skin? or like some of the other crazy ones, like maybe the Tagwells, maybe the Beast and the Bunnies and stuff like that. But in particular, Valoria and Keaton, I think these would be the most interesting. What even is this? Like, what kind of transformation is this? It's like a wolf slash bear slash Bigfoot slash monster. I don't even know what this is. Like, what is the wolf tribe? I have no idea. But would be an interesting combo to see. And then finally, we got these two. So, Fogado and Inigo slash Laszlo. Probably Inigo, because he's more popular. But I guess Laszlo could also fit this build. So these two, of course, imagine them just trying to get a date. Like, them two together trying to get, like, a double date with some ladies. So they always strike out, which is the funny thing. I think maybe Fogado has a little bit better luck than Inigo and Laszlo. But still, like, in this particular scenario, they both, like, just fail at every girl that they're trying to court. And then eventually they come across Charlotte, and Charlotte ends up being the date that they always wanted, but then they find out later on they didn't really want it. So it would kind of, like, backfire on them. They'd be like, why did we try to date this person in the first place? I don't know. I think it would be pretty funny. So, yeah, just these two trying to get a date would be pretty hilarious. So those are my top 10 picks for possible duo and harmonic heroes in the future. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below, and let me know some of your most wanted duo and harmonic heroes down below as well. And this is your boy Tacho signing out. So take care, fellas, and I'll catch y'all again on the flip side.